Across newsrooms from New York to Nairobi, journalists literally froze. Teleprompters mid-scroll. Editors blinking like the signal was broken. Did this just happen? Was it a prank? Nope. It was real. President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso had just done the unthinkable. He turned down the Nobel Peace Prize. Not in a drama-filled rage, not for ego points, but in a simple handwritten note that hit harder than any headline. Justice doesn't need awards, only victory. Boom. That's it. 5 lines that slammed the world's expectations. While most world leaders chase prestige, photo ops, and flashy accolades, Traoré walked away from the glitziest stage on earth with quiet, unshakable conviction. Why? Because for him, and for millions across Africa, peace isn't a trophy from Oslo. It's sweat, soil, and struggle. It's built with bare hands, not gold medals. Think about that for a second. What kind of leader rejects global fame to dig in the dirt with his people? And what does that say about the rest of us, sitting comfy while others grind for survival? When the handwritten note hit the Norwegian Nobel Committee, the world collectively exhaled. "I am honored," Traoré wrote, "but I cannot accept this prize while my people still bleed, while our land still suffers, and while freedom is under siege." He wasn't being dramatic. He was flipping the script. For Traoré, the Nobel Peace Prize wasn't the finish line. It was a detour, a shiny distraction from the real work. Later that day, he addressed his people, not from some gold-trimmed podium, but a makeshift platform in Bobo-Dioulasso, surrounded by cotton farmers and mothers, cradling babies. No press, no cameras, just people. And he kept it real. "I'm not a saint. I'm not some savior," he said. "I'm just a worker of the soil. And workers don't stop mid-harvest to collect medals. We finish the work first, then we feed the village." The crowd didn't gasp. They didn't clap nervously. They just stood in awe. And then he dropped the line that made the day unforgettable. "This prize, if it belongs to anyone, belongs to the women walking 5 kilometers to teach under the sun, the widows forgiving men who once held guns, the kids finally drinking clean water. Let the Nobel be written into schools, hospitals, and furrows, not my name." And with that, he stepped down, grabbed a shovel, and dug a new irrigation trench himself. The humility was deafening, the power undeniable. Even world capitals felt the aftershock. In Paris, President Jean-Luc Marot, flustered and clearly shaken, admitted, "I underestimated him. He's not playing our game. He's building something we can't even wrap our heads around yet." At the Vatican, Pope Leo XIV commented, "There are saints who refuse canonization out of humility. Traoré is one of them. May we have the wisdom to follow, not just admire." Meanwhile, at the UN in New York, the Secretary General got emotional on live feed. "This isn't a rejection. It's a message. Peace isn't something you celebrate from afar. It's something you live." Yeah, that's Burkina Faso. Quiet, grounded, unapologetic. And the streets. They didn't wait for global approval. By August 17th, tens of thousands marched, holding signs. "We are the Nobel. Traoré chose us." Local musicians even dropped a new folk song, "Lidu Silence," celebrating the leader who swapped gold for bread. Markets stayed open late. Women danced barefoot in the dust. Kids wrote essays. "What is peace if it doesn't feed us?" And an old man, who'd survived 5 coups, told a reporter, "We've had medals handed to traitors before. This time, our leader handed it back. That's why we follow him." Traoré's refusal wasn't just a personal act, it was a challenge. A bold call for leadership rooted in real service. Across West Africa, youth saw new hope. Not just news, not just Africa. A movement. And the world? Well, the world was forced to rethink everything they thought they knew about leadership. Stick around, because the story gets even wilder when the West realizes Traoré isn't just rejecting the Nobel. He's flipping the whole concept of power on its head. As the dust settled from the initial shock, global media scrambled to process what just happened. Every major newsroom, from CNN to the BBC, was buzzing. Journalists, editors, and pundits were spinning their wheels, trying to wrap their heads around Troer's move. The West had always treated the Nobel Peace Prize like the ultimate stamp of legitimacy. Winning it was basically a free pass to history books, photo ops, and red carpet speeches. But Ibrahim Traore, he just ghosted that narrative. People debated endlessly. Was he a reckless dreamer tossing away international clout? Or was he a visionary calling out the shallow obsession with optics and awards? The New York Times editorial team even asked, how do you measure leadership when the world is obsessed with PR and shiny trophies? The question wasn't just rhetorical. It hit at the core of a global mindset addicted to applause over action. Academic forums got in on the debate too. Political scientists, historians, and international relations scholars were scratching their heads. For decades, peace efforts had been staged like Broadway productions. Carefully choreographed summits, press conferences, and symbolic handshakes designed to impress cameras and journalists. But Traore? He just said, "Nah, we're not doing it that way." Peace, he implied, isn't a ceremony. It's the hard, messy, day-to-day grind. It's planting crops, rebuilding schools, teaching kids, restoring trust. Not sipping champagne in Oslo. Even in America, the reaction was wild. Analysts remarked, "Yo, this guy literally just threw the rulebook out the window." People over 40, who'd seen decades of political spectacle and empty promises, were especially shook. Finally, someone was flipping the script on leadership. No stage speeches, no media theater, just the real work that actually moves communities forward. Social media exploded, too. Twitter threads, TikTok clips, and Instagram posts dissected every angle. Some called it reckless. Some called it genius. But the one thing everyone agreed on? Traore made them rethink leadership. And not in a boring, textbook way. He made them feel it. Think about it. In a world obsessed with personal branding and curated images, here comes a leader who refuses fame, who sidesteps the flashy stages, who gets his hands dirty to make tangible change. Leadership, he showed, isn't about medals or headlines. It's about collective resilience, community uplift, and staying committed when no one's watching. Meanwhile, debates raged in think tanks. Could Western models of diplomacy even measure up to what Traore was doing? Scholars argued passionately that decades of focusing on optics might have blinded the world to what real progress looks like. While the West polished speeches, the people of Burkina Faso were out there digging trenches, teaching kids, and planting crops. Peace wasn't a photo op, it was sweat on the brow, mud under fingernails, and hearts committed to change. And it wasn't just about Burkina Faso. This moment forced a reckoning. Are our leaders building legacies or just managing images? Are we honoring service or just applauding spectacle? Traore's refusal became a global mirror, reflecting the world's obsession with shiny recognition and forcing everyone to face some uncomfortable truths. As the international conversation swirled, one reality stood out. Traore wasn't rejecting recognition out of arrogance. He was inviting the world to reconsider what leadership actually looks like. Not a gold medal, not a camera-ready speech, but action, grit, and real impact. And in Burkina Faso, the message landed loud and clear. Farmers, teachers, students, they weren't waiting for headlines. They were living the change. Traore's leadership wasn't about being admired from afar. It was about building something lasting at home. And it doesn't stop there. Because while the world argued over optics, Traore's choice sent shockwaves through the Nobel Committee itself. And what happened inside those hallowed halls would leave everyone questioning the very meaning of peace. Back in Burkina Faso, the streets were alive with energy. Traore's refusal had sparked more than headlines. It ignited pride, action, and a sense of ownership. From the Grand Mosque in Ouagadougou to university campuses, people weren't protesting. They were celebrating. Signs read, "We are the Nobel." Trohr chose us. Local musicians dropped new songs in his honor. Kids wrote essays asking, "What is peace if it doesn't feed us?" Women danced barefoot in the dust. Markets stayed open late. Communities were alive, energized by a leader who chose substance over spectacle. Across West Africa, the story spread like wildfire. Youth looked at Burkina Faso with renewed hope, realizing that leadership could be about real work, not just image management. This wasn't just an African story anymore. It was a global lesson, challenging entrenched systems of authority, recognition, and influence. Trohr had proven that leadership is not about the shine of medals or cameras flashing. It's about sweat, accountability, and building a future with your own hands. Even the Nobel Committee, once stunned, began rethinking the purpose of their prize. Could funds be redirected to grassroots projects, schools, irrigation systems, clinics, without formal acceptance? Could recognition evolve from symbolic gold to real-world impact? Trohr's quiet refusal sparked an existential reflection. Peace isn't a trophy. It's a daily, lived effort that involves communities, sweat, and unglamorous work that often goes unseen. Across the Atlantic, conversations in homes, newsrooms, and classrooms reflected a seismic shift. Americans, Europeans, and others were forced to confront their own assumptions about power. Leaders, fame, and accolades often overshadow the real labor behind progress. Trohr's actions challenged conventional ideas. Is leadership about being admired, or is it about serving others, even when no one is watching? Political analysts, scholars, and commentators agreed on one thing. Trohr had flipped the script. He showed that effective leadership isn't about optics, it's about integrity, action, and the courage to put people first. In a world where diplomacy often looks like a chess game of photo ops, Trohr reminded everyone that true power lies in doing the work that matters, not the work that looks impressive. And in Burkina Faso, the results were tangible. Crops grew, schools reopened, irrigation systems expanded. The people were invested, not because someone handed them awards, but because they were part of something bigger than themselves. Trohr's philosophy was simple, yet radical. Justice doesn't need awards, only victory. Freedom isn't granted from afar, it's claimed, built, and defended by the people themselves. As the world slowly caught up, the lesson became clear. Leadership is not about the spotlight. It's about accountability, resilience, and unwavering dedication to the community. Ibrahim Trohr had shown the globe a new blueprint for authority, service, and impact, a quiet revolution rooted in humility, hard work, and action. And for those watching closely, it was a call to action, to reconsider what it means to lead, to recognize that glory is fleeting, but work is eternal, that applause is temporary, but change lasts. Trohr didn't just reject a prize, he rewrote the rules, leaving a legacy far more valuable than any medal. If this story hits you like it did the world, then let it resonate. Share it, talk about it, and remember Trohr's simple truth. Justice doesn't need awards, only victory. Leadership isn't about fame, it's about rolling up your sleeves, digging in, and doing the work that actually changes lives. The quiet revolution has begun. Will you be part of it?